This is Love Notes, daily devotions from Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. Grace and peace to you. We now turn to the 19th chapter of Job and Job's response to Bildad, and really to all of his friends who've gathered. Job answers, it says, "How long will you torment me and break me in pieces with words?" That's what they've been doing. I was told long ago as a child, and I've shared this before, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. But that's a lie. In fact, words do hurt. And the words that these three friends have uttered to Job have not helped his cause of suffering. In fact, they have deepened it. And we have to ask ourselves, what are their motives? Why is it that they're saying the things that they do? And then ask ourselves if those motives drive us. Is it self-protection, clinging to order? Is it that we don't like the answers that we know are true and so we make up something else? Or is it just that we access the things that have been told us over and over again as if they're true, even though the testing of them, and Job's life is a test, well, even though that says, no, your words are untrue, sometimes we just can't let go of the things that aren't working. These 10 times you have cast reproach on me, and are you not ashamed to wrong me? That's a rhetorical question. They obviously are not ashamed to wrong him. Job feels wronged by these friends, and yet they don't see it at all. They think they're helping. Or at least by this point, that they're just defending God, who needs no defense at all. The interesting thing that's happening here is that Job has lost everything, right? He's lost his prosperity, he's lost his riches, his place in the community, he's lost his family, he's lost his health. And all of those things have been taken, as the first part of the story tells us, because God has allowed Satan, the accuser, to do his best to Job. But he can't hurt Job by killing him. He can't destroy Job. But even as the accuser is limited from destroying Job, his friends now come in and take up the work of Satan, the accuser. And what the accuser can't do, they seem to be doing. They're beating Job into the dust. What Satan was not allowed to do, his friends are doing. And that's how evil works. We pile on a little bit of evil, and all of a sudden there's a mob mentality. These three friends are starting to feed off each other on Job's suffering. We must be careful in this world that we inhabit, that we do not participate in the evil of the world by our lack of compassion, by our inability to let go of our own ideas and thoughts, by trying to find answers instead of sitting with people who have questions. Job says, "If indeed you magnify yourselves against me and make my humiliation an argument against me, know then that God has put me in the wrong and closed his net around me." If you're going to humiliate me, he's saying, you're in a way humiliating God because God has done this. Job isn't having any of their nonsense. God has walled up my way so that I cannot pass, and God has set darkness upon my paths. He has stripped my glory from me and taken the crown from my head. And by you blaming me, he seems to be implying, that doesn't answer my question. My question is, why has God done this? We have to ask ourselves a question. at this point, what do we make of Job's continuing assertion, even deeper here, that God has done all this to him? Is that true? If it is true, how is it true? It is one thing to think that in the providence of God, which is the grand scheme of things, the way that things run, gravity, for instance, is created by God, we assert. And if gravity means that the anvil falls on the coyote's head, pardon my cartoon reference, then is the suffering of the anvil crushing the coyote God's fault? Well, yes and no. God created gravity, but God didn't drop the anvil. Or are we talking about God as a causal being who inflicts things upon people, who in fact does position an anvil above Wile E. Coyote's head and drop it on him for kicks, for pleasure, for punishment, for whatever it may be? Those are two different things, and we have to plumb the depths of what we mean by things happen at God's behest. The good things of this world happen because God set the world in its order. Rain falls to water the crops. But does God sit up in heaven and turn on a spigot? No. We know that weather happens because of complex scientific knowledge that we have. That the water of the earth goes up into the air as it evaporates, and then because of certain weather conditions, it returns to the earth. God doesn't have to be a causal agent in order for things to come from God. In verse 13 it says, "He has put my family far from me," death, "and my acquaintances are wholly estranged from me." That's pointed at those people who are trying to help. I've become estranged because of my suffering. And we do this to people all the time in our world, do we not? We categorize them. So we may have compassion for the homeless as long as they stay in their shelters. We may have compassion for the hungry as long as they're not eating in our living rooms. We may have compassion for the sick, but don't make us sick. You know what I'm saying? Suffering makes us strangers. It pushes us apart, and it takes only love to overcome it. Job continues, "I am loathsome to my own family." Remember the words of his wife to him long ago in the 2nd or 3rd chapter. "Even young children despise me. When I rise, they talk against me. Oh, look at that man over there." In verse 20, "My bones cling to my skin and to my flesh, and I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. There's nothing left. Have pity on me. Have pity on me, O you, my friends. For the hand of God has touched me." Here is the central request of Job when it comes to his friends. Have pity on me. Sit with me. Hear my ravings. But that's not where they leave it. He then says, "Why do you, like God, pursue me, never satisfied with my flesh? Isn't it enough that my flesh has been wasted away, that everything in my life has been taken away? You seem to desire more. You want to attack my very existence. My existential self is being carved away by your attacks and your explanations. Isn't it enough that I suffer? Why do you add to my suffering?" That's a question we all have to ask in our times of suffering, especially as we deal with those others who are suffering in our lives. How is it that we add to their suffering? May we never. Amen.